No, and you'll know because you just want to put it in that spot.
Oh, okay, then just that side.
Yep. So there's a little bit more on this side, but this one's just one. So, okay, and let's make sure your ear's back here. Right here. Can you put that back? Okay. Adjust that. Okay, so... Now remember we talked about those mastoid electrodes in class that are really important because we use them as a reference? Okay, these are going to be those two electrodes right behind the ear. So sometimes it's good, if you can reach there, to clean off those sites too. Just because that's going to define how good of your connection is. Because any other measurements on these sites are only going to be as clean as what we're referring to as a comparison. So you can kind of do that on the mastoid. So there's a little bone back there. So for you it would be essentially there.
Okay.
So you want to do it on that. That's it. Where did that trash can go? Oh, you want to pass that? Can you pass that trash can? Thank you. Alright. So this is a good point to note because we will have trash during this, and it's really helpful to have the can handy. Alright, so we got that. Now is a good time we can actually put our glasses back. Well, it's okay. Can you hold these for a second? And we're going to put the eye electrodes on. And Alana, which colors are you guys using for the eyes?
We haven't really been using any specific.
Okay, cool. You want to help me with this maybe?
Yeah.
Okay, so let's just take a look. Are there questions? Huh? Anybody else want to come in and help? You get to wear a lab coat. There's more. We saw lots of ladies' lab coats in there.
Very spiffy too.
Yeah. Nobody? Anybody? Alana, you want to help?
She said, I don't need no lab coat.
She brought her own. Okay, so get these tangled up.
Yep. It's really important to do this part before you get to the point where you apply it, because this can take me up to 15 minutes to untangle.
Fun.
Yeah, that's fun. You thought headphones were bad.
Okay, so
I'm trying to get the ground out of here.
You guys ever thought of like using the binder clips?
what's that?
Using the binder clips
That
For what?
is a good idea.
to not
So
have
they
it
don't
tangled up.
That is a good idea. Maybe we will start doing that. Okay, so like I said, I kind of put these aside because we were jumping around between things, but like she said, we normally wouldn't do this. It wouldn't be necessary to unsort these, but I'm trying to do lots of things at once, which is why you shouldn't do that. Yeah.
Is that a mesh where the gel can get onto the hair?
Technically, yeah, it's just
Okay.
fabric, so it can definitely seep through, and that's a really good point. So there's something called a salt bridge that you want to avoid at all costs. So the gel is salt, right? And the whole reason we're using it is because it conducts electricity from point A to point B. So if you put too much gel in this spot and it leaks out beyond here, and you put too much gel in this spot and it leaks out beyond there, now they've bridged together, and this site now becomes one site because you can't differentiate the electrical signals, and you basically ruined your time. So we'll get to that when we start filling these in with gel. It's going to be something where we'll learn that just a little bit of gel, there's a healthy medium, and you want to kind of hold the capsule down so that the gel doesn't leak out the sides. And so we'll work on the technique on getting that. So you want to grab one of these?
Yeah.
What you can do is you can ask them to hold this back end. You just hold it in your lap, it's fine, no real rush. And you want to put a sticker on it.
Okay. Are those in here?
Yeah. Can you pass a few stickers?
Yep.
Okay. I'm going to recruit you.
Okay.
Do you want a lab coat?
I'm okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
Can you hold that circle?
Okay.
And can you hold that end? Just a little bit of energy. Just line up the holes. Is that it?
But try not to put the tab directly in line with the wire. So when you take it off, it's easier that you can not to pull the wire.
Okay.
You got that one? Oh, you can do that. Do you want to take this one? This one. Hold that.
What's your name?
Jesse. Hold that. And ask you to hold that.
So just try to line it up with the hole on the electrode.
A lot of talking
And
today.
just offset the tab a little so
Say
it
all the time.
doesn't line up with the one.
Oh, does it matter what color? Or they're all the same color?
And if you're good, you're lined up, you can put it basically there.
Do you want the gel in it?
Yeah, I guess, not from today. Oh, we should show them how to do it the right way. Okay, so what you're gonna do is, before you tape it on, you're gonna take a little bit of gel and just literally dab a tiny little bit. Really not much is needed. That's it. Josh? Josh?
Not yet.
How you doing there, Stormy? Okay.
Okay, take one out.
We're like,
Oh wait, there we go. I thought I put it backwards.
Okay, so,
Do you have the sticker?
you can follow this guy.
Did you take the sticker off from this thing?
Okay, so just right here.
Yeah, but under the cap.
Yeah, before you put it on there. Where do they put the gel?
I just have to leave it on.
You want, yep,
And
you wanna line
on
that
the
up
top of
perfectly,
the
just there.
actual little, they put the sticker on
No.
top of, yeah, the gel.
You're gonna put one.
The electrode, they put the gel on top of the electrode and then the sticker on top of the gel.
Would it go on the cloth? On the,
Yeah, you can.
Under the cloth.
oh, okay.
We just kinda rushed ahead. Yep.
So mine will be above her eye.
Yep.
So we'll do right here.
Yep. Nice. Now, the thing you want to keep in mind, and these ladies did this really well, is you want this and this to be basically vertically aligned in the center with their pupil. So, that works. Nicely done. And now that we have that done, actually, we should do, that's fine for now. I can help, can you hold that for a second? Sorry. You can open your eyes, and now you can put their glasses back on. And so usually it works better. So first of all, these wires are going to come. Can you let go of these for just a second? Okay. These are going to end up, and you do want to be careful because you don't want. Sometimes they'll drop them like that on the floor, and you can kind of hold that and back there because these are ultimately going to come. This is going to come this way. Okay. And now we can kind of put that. There. Does that feel okay? And you can adjust that if you need to. All right. Questions?
You're missing one.
Oh, you missed one. Okay. We want to put that one right in the middle. So take that sucker off, and you can look at this head if you need to.
Do you want to align it with the black thing on the?
This one doesn't need to be so aligned. This is actually another ground electrode for the ocular sites.
So it doesn't go under the cap, right?
No, no, this goes right where it shows there on the floor.
Does the ground electrode need gel, or did you guys put it in?
I think you put it in already, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and then you can feed that wire a little bit in the back here. And so we can kind of bring this back there. And one of the things you would do here is see how this is on her eye? Here, watch out. Can you step aside? So you see how this is hanging over her eye? What we would do is actually set up the sticker so that the wire itself feeds upwards. It's a really good example of kind of proper placement and stuff. Good job. And then what these do, let me back up just a little bit. These plug in to these connections here. And they're each labeled for the VEOG, which means vertical electrooculogram. So vertical means this one and this one. And there's a U and an L, so upper and lower. So you connect those as that. And there's another one for HEOG, horizontal electrooculogram. And so they're on little Velcro tabs. and we just kind of connect them. So I'll hold this if you want. You can plug those in. Take it one at a time. Here.
Here's one.
So let's say the green one is vertical ocular. Oh, are you the colorblind one? Oh goodness. My luck, right? Okay, sorry. Okay.
Lower's right.
Lower's right. Okay, thank you. And then black's in the middle.
Okay, I can see that.
Okay, and then we have, can I get this green one? Thank you, Stormy. Alrighty.
We'll just leave it here.
Green is horizontal.
Right?
Yeah, just Velcro it down. And the blue? Okay. And then you want to Velcro those down. Now here's the thing. A couple of things to note that are really important, they're very practical about this point. So now, she is now connected, which is why it's tough to go to the bathroom. I mean, she can go to the bathroom, it's just going to be a tough mess to clean up, right? But she's connected, and so you want to be mindful of that, because they tend to not do anything, which is perfect, right? They just hang out. We tend to screw it up, because we bump into her, or we bump into the wires and pull them out, and they either pull off of here or pull out of there. They're very delicate, very sensitive. You know, this is on us. We just want to be, you know, conscientious and all that kind of good jazz. So with that said, we now start filling up these capsules with some gel. So this is a good way to kind of explain it. The way that it's a good technique to use is a two-handed technique. So one, if any of you guys have ever have not used medical syringes before, okay, this is the way to hold it. Use your thumb to press, and these two tabs to hold with your fingers. Don't do this. Okay? And use a two-handed technique to do this. So one hand holds the capsule. Now, you don't want to jam it into her head because she'll react like that. She'll be like, ugh, right? You don't want to totally push her head away, but you do want to hold a little bit of pressure on it and hold it down to make sure the gel doesn't leak out the sides and create that salt bridge. Okay? So we're going to hold this there, and you're just basically going to fill up a little bit of gel. Now you want to talk to them, especially at first, and say, okay, so I'm about to do this. It's going to feel a little cold and goopy. Do you feel that?
What does it feel like?
I have no idea. It's weird.
It's weird. Okay, so you fill that up, and now notice, see how the gel is kind of like coming right up to the top there? It's a pretty good amount, and that's what you're going to do. You're just going to kind of move around. Now she's got some hair. Now if you put me down there, or you, you know, there's not going to be a lot of hair there to get in the way. It's going to be a little bit easier. But the hair itself doesn't actually present that much of an impediment to successful recording. People would be surprised to know that. We get fantastic recordings from ladies with wonderfully long hair. Now, what can get in the way, Alex, my man, I don't know, dude, the dreads, it might not happen, man. So if you guys have guys who have dreadlocks or some sort of a weird hairdo where there's a physical barrier that keeps the electrodes off the side of the scalp, that can be a problem. But the hair itself, you'd come in here and you could lift up the capsule just a little bit, and you kind of move the hair out of the way and create a little channel. Okay? See that little channel in there? Yeah. So you do that, and then you could kind of fill it up with that gel, and that's it. So what we want to do is first fill up all the gel. Okay? When all the gel's filled up, that first allows time for the gel to just seep in, kind of into the pores a little bit, and kind of get where we need it to be. And then, once it's filled up, then we'll go through, and in each site, yeah, you feel that, right? Can you feel that? Did it hurt?
No, it was too good.
Yeah, that means you're doing it about the right tension. You don't want it to hurt, and especially when you start, you say, okay, so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to take the blunt end of the syringe, and I'm just going to kind of move it around a little bit. You should feel it on your scalp, but it shouldn't hurt. And it's important to ask them for feedback, because maybe you're too gentle. maybe you're too scared to actually make contact, which means you're not doing anything. So have fun, you're not doing anything, right? You're just not going to connect the electrodes or anything. You want them to say, you want to ask them, can you feel that? And if they, you want them to say, if they say no, you're like, okay, fine, I just really need to go a little bit more. Can you feel that? Like, can you feel it actually on the skin? Okay, does it hurt? Okay, if it starts to hurt, just let me know. I'm just going to work it in a little bit. Now, what's kind of funny is, usually, I told a story of one of my best buddies who did this and almost freaked out because he got a little alcohol swab on a cut in his face. Usually, the guys tend to be really sensitive to this. And they're like, oh, you know. And usually the girls they're like, yeah, I go to the beauty salon all the time. I go pull my hair all the time. You know, and girls are used to, you know, people futzing around up there, and they're a little bit not as sensitive. So do be mindful of that, because sometimes the guys actually won't say anything, and you want them to let you know. As well as the girls too. So have some fun.
You guys need one more to go.
Yeah.
Do you feel each one?
What's that?
I think I haven't gotten in yet.
Oh,
You want help?
Oh, yeah,
Open
those,
those
yeah.
suckers up? No.
Make sure you massage it as
Okay. I don't think I'm qualified for that.
For what?
Just don't apply too much pressure, that's all.
It's not stabbing me, that's all I have.
Just minimal pressure, that's all.
Do you feel that?
So, where's the other two?
You should feel that
Don't be
something
scared.
to-
Yeah, no,
Let's see.
I can get another one.
We're not.
You're laughing and making it difficult for him.
Yeah,
Sorry.
I'm sorry.
Fine. Do you feel it?
Might want more pressure.
Part of our fault for talking to you.
Fill that up a little bit.
That's cool.
You have to
It's-
create like a little
yeah, it's not-
pathway.
There's like no
Thank you.
pressure at all.
That's what I'm saying, you gotta have her feel it, not force.
Yeah, if you could.
Just go back and forth.
Can you connect that?
Okay.
And you guys want to fill that up for me? And then we can fill up that one too.
How many syringes
Just
do
another
you
one if you
usually
doesn't feel
use
comfortable.
per participant?
One per researcher.
Okay.
So usually, ideally when we conduct data, we can usually do it with 2 people. For our class, we'll probably do between 4 and 5 per subject. And so we would never use more than 1 of these per person.
Yeah.
I mean, just don't
I
need
don't
it.
think it's
Okay.
going in.
It's too much job.
Good stuff.
Thank you, sir. So you get these little extra gel goops, so clean them off. And now, yeah. So the thing is you got to be mindful, because if I would have just put this down here, you start getting gel too close to this sucker. No good. So you know, it's one of those things.
Probably because there was tears too.
So. Okay, so tray jet. You put those 2 guys together. Does that sound good? It's just a screw top. Switch.
And then you clean it up.
Okie dokie. Okay, so we got this one's ready, and this one's ready. If anybody who wants to help fill these with gel, okay.
We're like 3.
Very soon. You guys, if you guys want lab coats, we can pass those over. I think we have a use for some of them.
More people to poke at you.
Here's one.
Just let you know.
Figure out the size of those.
I think we just need 3 total.
Anybody else? You guys want coats? Okay. You guys good? Okay.
Have an extra.
So,
Behind with
yeah, let me just take a look.
I'll go in here.
So what ends up working, as you work as a team, right, is you each take a little quadrant to the scalp, which means it goes pretty quick because you each only do about 5 or 6 electrode sites. And so it works out pretty good. So 2 hands. If you can't reach, then don't do it.
Yeah, I
But
can't reach.
so you shouldn't be doing the front ones, you should be doing this quadrant. So this is why we typically don't have more than, let's say, 4 or 5 people per session, because you can see how crammed it gets.
How do you feel in the back?
I'm okay.
Do you feel it?
And so something that we'll talk about as we move forward a little bit is we'll end up later on checking what we call the impedance values, right? When we turn the battery on and we connect this stuff. Right now we're not able to do that because the electrodes themselves aren't actually connected in. So we're just kind of doing that abrasion at sort of a casual level that we're going to have to go in and do more of later. So you work it a little bit because it's easier access now, but we're going to come back to those in a little bit.
So if you do get the bridge between the gels, what do? You just have to start over?
Yeah. So the answer to what happens if you get the bridge between the electrode sites is don't get the bridge between the electrode sites. So, you know, and not to be facetious or anything like that, but it's usually not a problem because we're usually conscientious enough to make sure it doesn't happen. But if I don't say that first, then people don't know.
Yeah.
And so then that's when it happens. But generally, yeah.
So you want the gel all the way to the top, or?
It doesn't have to be entirely to, because we're going to be filling that space with the electrode too.
Okay.
So that's not how you hold it.
Which one? This one?
Well, actually, no. I'm sorry. I thought you were injecting gel.
No,
I'm sorry.
I'm
That's fine.
scraping.
I'm all out. I need more ammo.
Okay. Who wants to reload?
My man. That's really nice.
Are you enjoying the massage?
I don't really like massages. But I'm
I'm
feeling
just
okay.
kidding.
It's fine.
As long as you don't feel anything.
Don't be scared. I'm not fragile.
I don't think they need my help anymore, so.
Yeah. Usually
They got it covered.
this is pretty good. Although they missed one spot here in the middle on the ground, but we'll get that later. And so with these back sights, you really got to kind of move that hair into kind of a channel with the ladies who have that kind of ponytail thing. But usually you can get it, and it's usually not too much of a problem.
Does this one hurt?
No.
You wanna get that
We
one,
still
that one.
With the ground one, do we still do the scraping motion? And then
Yeah, just a little bit, but gentle, right? Because it has to be even more gentle because there's no hair there in between. It's literally, I mean, it's just doing that, like sensitive. Yeah, so that's the other thing that hopefully these guys can relate to you is that it's easy to miss one or two. There's a lot in here,
You're at
I don't know
the,
who started this one.
which is why I
Well,
recommend
it's probably the one I ran out of.
going through in a systematic, having each person do a little quadrant. If you all just kind of go, oh, boop, 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 then you think somebody else got this one or I got that one. Yeah. Oh, your syringe broke. So, no. Yep. That didn't break, you just got to screw it in.
Well,
There you go.
I apologize for that.
No, you're good. Okay, so we got gel in all of them.
What if it comes off with the holes around it?
Well, one thing you can do is kind of do this and kind of put it back in. You can kind of push that back in like that. So put that back in. Otherwise, you can kind of actually scoop it out and kind of bring it off. Keep going. So are we gelled up in all of
Yeah,
them?
this is.
Okay, so what we can do next, now that the gel's done, we're going to actually start working with the actual electrodes. So, let me sneak around you guys. I'm gonna have to sneak in there, excuse me. So, remember, we're gonna have our electrodes that are gonna be hanging up here because we don't want them by the gel or anything like that. Alex, do you know how to set up the computer? Could you set up that set?
Sure.
Alright.
Excuse me, people.
Hi,
No, you
Alex.
shouldn't. Hey, what's up? How you doing?
I'm good, how are you?
You look fabulous.
Alright, so let's just take a look here. Now we have all of our electrodes, right? Very, very sensitive, expensive, delicate. Be very careful with that. Of course, the most delicate parts are the back end and the middle end. So what we're going to do is there's a little connector back here, and if you guys want, you guys can kind of come back here and see a little bit how we put this in. You guys want to come over here and see how we plug this in? Okay, so there's some equipment back here you guys might want to come and see.
Oh,
Okay, because I can't really take it out. But we're basically going to, you're not going to do it, you're not going to move this like I'm moving it now. But this is the battery connector. Connects to that. And that's going to turn our power on. And then what we're going to do is take our section, and this is very delicate, and you don't put it in sideways one way, but you want to put it in the same way, and these two clips are going to click. And you're going to do it in this front. You're going to do it in this front side here. Okay? Like that. And it clicks in. Okay? Now, so I'm clipped in there. It should be able to be turned on.
500 millivolts?
Well, you probably have to restart it
Oh,
because
yeah.
I think it has, right? Doesn't it have to be plugged in first?
Wow, yeah.
The battery. So it's an important part to note. And the person who's in charge of the sessions will kind of cover the computers and stuff for you. Just
There we go.
so, nothing's in.
Oh, yeah, I thought they were in already.
All right, so,
That's it. You'll find it.
okay, so,
You want me to bring the camera?
Alex is
You want me
here.
to bring the camera?
maybe in a minute. I was first going to ask if I can snag a drink from that metal cup because I've been talking for a while. Thank you, sir.
What happens if
So can the participants like have their eyes open during this time?
Oh no,
Yeah,
I prefer to have my eyes closed.
I'm just kidding.
She just did.
Okay, so
I'll
so
come
yeah,
back later.
so you can bring the camera in a little closer if you want, just so you
you wanna
can
carry
see
it?
this.
Yeah.
So let me show you guys something that happened right off the bat. Look at how these lit up. They're all red now.
Oh, sorry.
Right? So they're all red. Now, in this case, red is bad in the sense that they're going to color code how good our impedance measures are. Okay? So red is like a stoplight. Red is bad. I mean, kind of. And yellow is kind of in the middle, and green is good. So, actually, Alex, you probably be helpful if you scoot a little bit out so they can see the computer screen. What will happen is these are essentially all the different electrode sites are those different red squares, and they all have those labels that we talked about: P3, P4, the International 1020 system that we'll revisit back in class. And on that color bar on the right-hand side is a scale where the colors correspond to kiloohms. That is the value electrically of our impedance. Now, high is high impedance. That's why it's red. That's a lot of interference. We want nice and low, essentially below about 15 kiloohms. Okay, that's kind of our benchmark. So we'll start to plug these electrodes in one by one. And as we do that, we'll see that they'll correspond to how good the different connections are. And a lot of them won't be very good. And so what we'll do is we'll take those syringe tips and we'll put them through this tiny little hole in there while this is in there, and we'll again work those sites very gently, very slowly, but methodically. People will each work a little section, and you'll see as you stay on the same electrode and keep kind of circling and scraping very gently, those colors are going to start to change. Now, we do not start the study until all of them are green. Some people, it happens very quickly. Other people, it takes a little bit more time. So sometimes 2 hours. That's why we wouldn't even start with Alex as a subject, because his dreads would get in the way. So, okay. Anyways, one last thing to note is that every one of these electrodes has a little tag on it. And those tags are numbers. So this one says 22, 25, 26, 16, 18. And those numbers tell you where to plug it in. So you're going to match up number 30 with number 30 here. So basically don't mess up. You know, it's not hard to do wrong, but it's also not hard to do right. So, you know, and they're lateralized and they come in, you know, these different little bundles. So, let's see here. Okay, who wants to help out on this side?
Go ahead, Alex, you're the closest.
Alex,
Why don't you
better not
delegate
kill me.
one of those bundles to somebody? We're gonna need other people here, guys, so, you wanna get that side?
Yeah,
I won't bite.
Somebody here. Now, notice that we have a little clip back here. Now this box, the splitter box, gets a little heavy. And so we want to, generally we can kind of clip it onto, you know, if they have a hood or something like that. Actually, you know what?
I
These
think
need
they're
reversed to the other
backwards.
side. Yep. There you go. Sorry about that. I'll just clip this onto the hood. Okay. There you go. And I'll help with some of these.
Okay.
There we go. It's just.
Is there certain alignments or
Just number.
Well, the alignment is just numbers to number. It's got to be the right number, 26, 26. And generally, so, oh, good question actually on alignment. So there's not, it's not going to affect the data, but it's helpful if you align it so that the wire comes back towards me. Toward the back, essentially.
and then it just
And so here's another little tip and trick, right?
or no?
Yeah, so that'll fall off sometimes. Make sure that's clipped down there. Not yet. You gotta put this back on. So one way to do this is, again, use a two-hand approach. Just like when we filled the gel, use one hand. I'm right-handed, so I use my right hand. So use your left hand to hold the plastic capsule in place. If you guys can't see, you can kind of rotate through and see what we're doing.
There's no gel in it.
And the right hand to actually then plug it in.
There's room over here if you guys want to come in.
And you guys want to plug a few in? You
That's fine.
guys want to rotate in? You can grab some of these.
I'll let you start.
Somebody, you want to do these? And somebody else can do those. Somebody else want to come in? We got a couple extras.
I already. Anyone else?
Watch the wires. You don't want nobody tripping over them.
Yeah.
Do any of you guys want to try it?
Is it like close? Put these in solid?
Nah, I've already been poked by EMG.
Like I'm good with
When I had a pinched nerve in my right hand, they wanted to sit there and poke me all in my right hand.
that. Yeah.
So notice how so far they're all staying red, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because we're not working any of them yet.
Sometimes someone go green or
Good job.
Addante, the EMGs is usually single, right?
Oftentimes.
Okay.
Yeah.
You're depressed, that'll be fine.
Okay. You know what's good to do too? Here, we'll do it in a little bit.
Put them all in a certain direction.
Yeah. So you could like face them to the back because
Gotcha.
she's not facing the way
Mhm.
She got that kind of idea.
For sure.
Okay, so are they all plugged in?
Almost. You're all red too.
Supposed to.
So you don't want to pull it out. You want to push it in. So you are pulling the plastic piece off the head.
Okay.
You don't want to do that. You want the plastic piece on the head because you just put all that gel there. You don't want to pull all that off.
Mhm.
Okay, so
Fucking Alex. There's lab coats right there, and there's 2 towels over there, bro.
okay, so we're gonna need these syringes. Okay, so some people who haven't been up here yet. Let's rotate through. I need some people to grab some of these syringes.
That's the tedious part.
Back there, you guys wanna?
I don't bite.
Stand next to me.
You guys are gonna have to do this for data collection sessions anyway, so we might as well
Get it
learn.
over with.
Grab one of those. Somebody else?
Hi, Phil.
Alana, you wanna help?
Oh, just with the ground electrode.
Oh, yeah.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
I'll move out of the way. Hopefully else can do it.
Anyone wanna plug in the ground electrode? Want then put the wire like sticking out this way so you can feel it. Oh, here, I'll hold this ready for you.
Oh yeah, I got some yellows.
Hey. Oh, green.
That's because of the
All
ground.
right. So, let's see here. So, if you guys can take a look, I want you to see this computer screen, and you can see we already have those colors changing, right? Our impedances are looking different. Some are really good connected, others are not. So you can imagine maybe some of the ones that are really good are some of these frontal ones where there's really no hair in between. It's really just a direct connection on the scalp. And we first, right, we filled it up with gel, we let it soak in, we also worked each of them in a little bit. So we already got some of them attached. But then there's going to be some other ones that are yellow and red. So you can see them, they're the same colors that these are colors on the sites here. Okay? So what you want to do is you're going to find out which one. So in this case, it's electrode 30. So which one is 30 is F2. So that's going to be this one. So I can find out, where's F2 on there?
All right.
Show me the box.
Right.
All right. Okay, so see that bottom right red box? That's what I'm going to be working right here. Now when I work this electrode to try to get the impedance down, again, it's kind of a two-handed technique. So since I'm right-handed, I like to use my other hand, my left one, to kind of hold it in place, right? Because you want to keep that gel down towards the scalp. And then you're going to fit the syringe in through that little hole, and you're going to start moving it. Now you're not going to have the space to really move or rotate around a lot the way that we did when we didn't have the electrodes in there, okay? But you can still do it and move it around. So, oh, see how I just turned green?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Can you feel that? Does it hurt?
No.
Okay. And then you let it go, and then every now and then it'll go back to yellow or red, and you go back, and then you go back and back. You play this little game of tag. But if you're lucky, it just stays that way. And so, why don't you grab some of these over here?
But you can't play tag with ground, right?
You don't need to. Well, kind of. Yeah, you can do that a little bit. The ground basically stays red.
Oh, okay.
It'll turn green.
It's changing a whole bunch of those with you playing with the ground.
Okay, so why don't you guys come in and do some of these red ones? Talk with her.
Let me know when I hurt you.
No, you don't say that. This is, you don't say that.
Unfortunately, I'm pretty sure you couldn't hurt me.
No, but you know, remember, this is a professional scientific research environment.
If you
And
feel
that's-
any pain, let me know, please. I'll
Yeah.
stop.
So you first want to ask, can you feel it at all? Because you want to make sure that you are actually making contact with the scalp.
Can you feel
Right?
it? I'm like,
Now then, once you know that they can feel it, now that's already green. Yeah.